Max for the first time this weekend, well and truly. And your grid is as follows. Spain's Philip Vava will have Matilda Olsson from Sweden alongside him on the front row. Leroy Jägersar, who's shown impressive pace, will line up alongside Mikkel Tigson on row 2. Then it's Fabian Bock from Germany and Kairo Kivi from Estonia on row 3. Hannes Morin and Robin Knutsson make it a Swedish row 4 ahead of David Remy and Lori Lepai from Finland. Nick Cuppens and Lars van Vark make it a Dutch row 6 ahead of Luna Blom and Una Oksanen from Finland on row 7. Basio Fransen and Sebastian Belhossen are on row 8 ahead of Peter Bezel and Jordi van der Eyck on row 9 with Rud Bijendik and William Newnham on row 10 ahead of Jusso Pantela and Tim Rolke from Germany rounding out the 22 strong. And on this particular occasion, slightly longer encounter, it's 10 minutes plus one additional lap for all other categories apart from Junior Max, where it'll be 7 minutes plus an additional lap. As very soon we will have yellow flags being brandished on the 2 hairpins at the end of the circuit here. So it will be Vava from Olsson, Jägersar, Tigson, Bock, Kivi, Morin, Remy and Lepai. That is your top 10. So it will be both Philip Vava and Matilda Olsson that will control the rolling start pace. As she now pulls alongside the Spaniard, we're about to get racing in Senior Max for the last round of the 2018 Rotax Max Euro Trophy season here at Wackersdorf at the Procart Raceland facility. The anticipation is building. It's going to be a hard-charged one in this particular race. Senior Max has provided us with plenty of drama over the 2018 season, and I do not expect anything different here in Bavaria as we're about to get underway. Everyone now lining up into formation, ready to go into the tram lines. The race control and race director will slow them down and telling them to get into the tram lines now. The Rotax engines roar into life when we go green heading into turn 1, and looks like Matilda Olsson has lost out on 2 places already as Tigson goes up the inside as well. Matilda Olsson's been involved in a carambolage up at turn 2. Another 2 carts involved there. So this has dramatically changed the order. Matilda Olsson did not have the best run of luck in Austria. So leading at the moment, it is Philip Vava from Spain. And Leroy Jägersar now up into second. Mikkel Tigson up into third. And there's got to be a lot of recovery work that needs to be done by Matilda Olsson as Luna Blom also gets her elbows out, the elbows out a little bit there. So just trying to keep an eye now. Mick Knowlton at the moment, he's not in this particular heat. We'll see him a little bit later on this weekend, this afternoon. So running order at the moment, well, good recovery. I have to say Matilda Olsson got the cart back on track very quickly. She's very close to the top 10 by about 1/10 of a second. She's behind Lars van Vark from the Netherlands, but it's Philip Vava from Spain leading from Leroy Jägersar. Mikkel Tigson, Hannes Morin has made his way all the way up to 4th place ahead of Fabian Bock in 5th, Nick Cuppens in 6th, Robin Knutsson in 7th, David Remy 8th, Lori Lepai and Lars van Vark round out the top 10. Oh, and there's more bumping and barging down the field as Matilda, so it looks like Lori Lepai got past and someone had just had... So it looks like someone came a little bit of a cropper coming out of that penultimate hairpin. As look at the amount of carts coming across the start-finish line right now. There's an absolute handful of them, and it's side by side. A nice little move up the inside there. Looks like there was a move going on behind Hannes Morin, I believe. So that could have been Fabian Bock on Mikkel Tigson for position, which it is. So nice work by the 277. Now up into 4th place. Just showing what the Germans can do on home soil. But meanwhile, Philip Vava has a lead of around half a second the last time around. So still plenty of time left to go in this race. And I tell you what, it looks like Mikkel Tigson is right in the back of Fabian Bock, going over the hump, over towards the final corner. So Morin is absolutely flying. The Swede is doing a great job He's now up into third position. He's gone for second up into turn 2. Nice work by the 219 from Dan Holland Racing up the inside of Leroy Jägersar for second position. And I tell you what, the next person he's got in his crosshairs and a clear track in front would be Spain's Philip Vava, who had about half a second advantage over the last tour. But the Spaniard is actually keeping it nicely composed and is controlling the pace from the very, very front of this the very front of the field as they go towards the... So Matilda Olsson in the meantime is now up into 8th position, and she's right on the back bumper. I think that might be Robin Knutsson in the 281. Some great work here. Absolutely fantastic by the Swede. But Morin is going to go, well, he's trying to close down as there's more moves trying to happen going into turn 1. It was nearly 2 abreast, actually, a little bit further down the order. There's multiple changes in terms of position. And one of them looks to be Matilda Olsson again, I think. I think she might be trying to make some moves. Well, she's ahead of Knutsson, who's lost out of Remy as well. Remy is trying to go side by side coming out of turn 5. That's incredibly brave. Remy manages to get past round the outside going into turn 6 and 7. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Philip Vava still controlling the pace. But Hannes Morin is like a pounced tiger in his cage, waiting to strike at any moment. They come round the final corner. It's Spain versus Sweden at the front of the field on German soil. And the gap now is a quarter of a second. Hannes Morin is pretty much within half a cart length. He's probably going to go for it. He goes for the lead and takes it from the Spaniard convincingly into turn 2. So Dan Holland Racing's Hannes Morin hits the front, but Philip Vava I don't think will have anything of it. But in the meantime, Hannes Morin has set the fastest lap of the race, over 0.2 of a second quicker than anyone else in this field. He set a 50.078 whilst in the tow from the Spaniard. But there is someone else that is also making a recovery drive, a great one at that. Matilda Olsson now up into 6th position. There is a bit of a gap, a bit of a distance between herself and Fabian Bock from Germany to the tune of about nearly 2 seconds. But Morin is not going to be out of the woods quite yet. They come across the start-finish line to complete another lap. It's now quite a difficult race to call when you think about who might win this. But Hannes Morin will get his weekend off to the perfect start here in Germany ahead of Philip Vava, who I know wants to make inroads against the rest of the top 10, as he's a little bit further behind the likes of Kalle Asland, who I think is not here this weekend. So already, he goes a bit wide there coming out of the turn 7, does Vava, as they go through into the penultimate hairpin. But Hannes Morin is still leading right now. It's going to be quite easy for the Swede, the way that he's shown his prowess when we went to Genk 6 months ago. And now he's coming back. He's firing on all cylinders, and he's making sure that he's keeping it clean. And he's done some great overtaking, having initially started from 7th. And it just goes the calibre of some drivers here. Philip Vava goes a bit wide. He's trying to defend from Leroy Jägersar for second position. So we've got 3 minutes 45 on the clock left to go here in this first Senior Max heat, and it has been filled with incidents, accidents, drama, great overtaking, and a field that is getting ever closer. The top 5 are closing quite considerably. So Hannes Morin is leading by about 0.3 of a second. Well, when they go over the hump, it's going to be a cart length and a half between him and Spain's Philip Vava. The third place man at the moment is Leroy Jägersar, and behind him is Mikkel Tixon and Fabian Bock. I'm just keeping an eye on the lap times done by Matilda Olsson. Bock did a 50.177. Matilda Olsson did a 50.155. As Philip Vava sets his best lap of the race of 50.199. As there's further overtakes going into turn 1. Oh, keep it. It's very close indeed. A little bit further down the order. And there's a car train of at least 6. And that is being led by... looks to be the... So it looks like there's being a 5-second penalty being issued to one of the drivers very shortly. But the driver that was being sort of unceremoniously bumped from behind might have been the 256, I think it was. Yeah, Kairo Kivi. He was pushed a little bit sideways coming out of look to be turn 4. as the leaders come across the start-finish line. Just look how close Vava is to Morin going through turn 1. Incredible commitment, incredible speed, incredible G-force coming through that. So they come through into turn 3 and turn 4 a little bit further down the order. Look to see that Nick Cuppins is in the wars. He's a little bit further down in the order than he probably would like. He's down in 17th position as there's more overtakes happening at turn 2. Hannes Morin, in the meantime, is having to fend off Philip Vava from Spain, and it's the 271 of Una Oksanen that's got a 5-second penalty. So she drops to 20th position on the road at the moment as a result of that time penalty that has been given by race control. Meanwhile, the leaders are still coming through the final corner. Hannes Morin still fending off the advances of the Spanish matador that is Philip Vava as they come through into turn 1. You could just see how much commitment, input that these drivers are having to put into some of these corners here. And then it gets into the tight and twisty stuff starting at turn 2, into the left-hander at turn 3, the first 180-degree hairpin on the track at turn 4, into turn 5, the right-hander, and then it goes into turn 6, into turn 7. So it's 3 successive right-handers into the left at turn 7. Now they go down towards the other part of the straightaway, so it's the penultimate hairpin. But you can just see how, well, look how close Mikkel Tixon is on Leroy Jägersar for 3rd place. That's going to be an incredible battle as we have 52 seconds plus 1 additional lap to go here in the first Senior Max heat of the day. The season finale for the 2018 Rotax Max Euro Trophy season here in Wackersdorf. But Hannes Morin has got a bit more daylight between himself and Philip Vava. These guys do have 2 sets of tyres throughout the weekend. In terms of dry tyres, they're running the Mojo D5s. And they have done all season as Philip Vava closes up to Morin in the braking zone going through turn 4. And they have dropped Jägersar, Tigson and Fabian Bock, but Matilda Olsson has been closing. She's about 1.6 seconds from the battle in front, and that's from 3rd to 5th. So just keeping an eye on sector times. Matilda Olsson has just done a 16 flat in sector 2 as the leaders come around the final corner yet again. Nick Cuppins now up into 18th. So this is the penultimate lap of this particular race, and it's coming to a crescendo. Well, it looks like, has Fabian Bock got the run on Mikkel Tixon going into turn 2? Not quite. Has to hold back and lift off the throttle, and that compromises him to the length of about a kart length and a half, but there's still a little bit left. So next time around it will be the last lap board being shown to Hannes Morin. So the 2:19 having controlled the race from around a third of the way through the time allocated per heat. Well, here we go. Checkered flag is actually being prepared, and it waves for Hannes Morin from Dan Holland Racing, who takes Senior Max Heat 1. Nearly 2.5 tenths of a second from Philip Vava from Spain, Leroy Jägersar, Mikkel Tixon, and the hard-charging Fabian Bock, who tried to get one up on the 240 on the last lap of the race, couldn't make it stick, but had to settle for 5th place. Matilda Olsson takes 6th ahead of Lars van Vark, Lori Lepai, David Remy, Robin Knutsson, who rounded out the top 10. But the fastest lap of the race, ladies and gentlemen, goes to Matilda Olsson, the only driver in this entire race that went sub 50 seconds here at Wackersdorf for 49.964. So let's run you through the finishing order. So Hannes Morin takes the win ahead of Philip Vava, with Leroy Jägersar, Mikkel Tixon and Fabian Bock rounding out the top 5. And then the lady that set the fastest lap of the race, Matilda Olsson, in the 2:32 was 6th, ahead of Lars van Vark, Lori Lepai, David Rebbe and Robin Knutsson, ahead of Bezel, Fransen, Belhossin, Newnham, Bantila, Bijendik, Kivi, Koppens, Blom, Van der Eyck, Rolke and Oksanen, who ended up being at the end of the field after a subsequent 5-second penalty. And that concludes the first qualifying heat here in Senior Max at Wackersdorf.